I'm so excited. I'm
You're
so glad that
amazing.
you are a motivator.
I don't know if I'm a motivator, but
No,
if
but
I
you're a
have,
get things done.
mm, well, it's only if I have somebody to like prod me along. So thank you for
Okay,
prodding me along.
so what are we going to do here, Amy? What's our plan
I know.
besides fixing everything that's wrong with everything?
Yeah,
Where are we going to start?
yeah, my plan. I
Uh,
always just wing things. This is the problem.
that's okay. I was giving thought to, I thought, do I make a list of all the things that I feel guilty about
Yeah.
and have felt guilty about? And then I decided that I wasn't going to make that list because it made me feel really shitty just thinking about it.
Yes,
I think they're quite top of mind.
yes. I started to make a list of all the things, and then I was like, this list is too long.
Mhm.
And it's like not an exhaustive list. It could go on forever.
Yeah. Okay. So just even right now, I feel guilty
Yeah.
that I haven't prepared enough for the
Yeah.
class I'm teaching tonight, when
Yeah.
in fact, probably I've prepared more than a lot of people would.
Yes.
I feel guilty that I missed Sophie's last cross country race yesterday. And I feel guilty because I contemplated going to see that race, even though there was a lockdown alert at Charlie's school.
Oh, what could
It's
possibly
just,
be a lockdown alert in
it
a
was a mistake. But, and I thought it probably was like it was 4 o'clock. So it was volleyball practice.
Mm.
I feel guilty that when I was cleaning up my desk to do this podcast, that I found the two thank you cards and little Starbucks gift cards that we got for Charlie's track coaches in June. And so I eventually gave up looking for them and just bought new ones and made her write new cards and dropped those off a week ago.
See, and that's one thing I've tried to stop feeling guilty about because my kids had too many teachers, too many coaches, too many things. And so I never was organized enough, and I felt guilty about this, to get the cards, to get the gift cards. Or if I got a gift card, I'd forget to get a card, and then I'd be like, oh, well, I can't just hand it to you. So I actually just stopped buying teacher gifts altogether. And I probably should feel more guilty about it than I do. Saying it, I feel guilty about it. But it was very freeing. I was like, you know what? I
I
can't.
may adopt that practice because it's kind of like tipping. It's
Yes,
become a cultural norm.
100%.
And there's like gift creep because what's an appropriate amount?
You feel guilty if you don't give enough.
Mhm.
You feel guilty if you give too much because then what are you saying about yourself and what you can afford? Or then you give too much because you feel guilty that you don't think you can afford to give more. So then you
Yeah.
give more. It's
And
stupid.
if you tally it up, like, do you give just the main teacher? But what if there's two teachers that share everything? And then what about coaching and
Mhm.
lessons and the 8-week volleyball skills training session and the babysitters when your kids are little? It's kind of like how now when you go to some place where they literally just take your money, or not even, when you tap the thing and they press some buttons and you press some buttons and there's a tip option. I now do not press those buttons. I skip, skip, skip.
I do too, because it got to be so overwhelming for me that I was just like, I felt guilty if I didn't do it. If I did do it, what was the appropriate amount? Then sometimes I'd be like, oh, I'll just give you $1. But then by the time you punch through the buttons, and then I was like, well, $1. Oh, now I feel
A
guilty that I
dollar.
only left a
Yeah.
dollar.
Yeah. But a dollar could be, well, I can't do math.
It could be 10%. It could
I
be
was
like
going to say
a
that. And then
fraction
I
of
was
a
like, well, what
percent.
would a dollar be 10% of?
Well, $10.
$10. I
Yeah.
felt like I would have got there if I
Yeah.
tried.
You would have. You would have. Yeah. So, but here's my question then. Do you tip for services like when you get your hair done or
Hair is a tricky one because that's my best friend.
yeah.
So we have a battle
Hmm.
that I've tried to have a firm conversation. And I said, please treat me like a customer so that I don't have to fight with you every time. And
And
I
she probably
sometimes,
feels guilty charging you full
I'm
price
sure
even.
she does, right?
Mhm.
And she has two younger kids. And so I will pull out, and they're both girls, right? So I will pull out good old clothes
Yeah.
like the quality stuff that
Yeah.
I think she might like. And I was taking it to her at the salon, and then she would try to not charge me for my hair, probably because we should have her on because she felt guilty. And I said, I will stop bringing you clothes if that's how this is going to go, because I'm just bringing them to you here because it's easier than driving out to your house.
And it's easing your
However,
guilt of paying, like, of not paying enough for your hair.
well, but like I would be giving these to community living if
Yeah.
I wasn't giving them to you. So this is not a trade.
No.
This is right. But I said, I'll stop giving you the Abercrombie jeans that I know fit your daughter.
So cruel.
Yeah, but that's a guilt thing.
Well, I took my daughter for laser hair removal recently
Oh,
for her legs. She may not want me to discuss this. I don't know. I don't think it's a taboo, but anyway,
I don't think we should run anything by them. If we are
probably not.
involved in the servicing, right, the getting there, the
Yeah.
paying for,
Yeah.
I feel like it's fair game.
And frankly, are they going to listen to us?
Mine do not. Mine won't even sign up for my Substack, so I
Yeah.
just signed them all up.
Mine 100% will not
And
listen
then
to us.
sometimes I don't want them to.
Oh, she'll just tell me I'm embarrassing, and then I'll feel guilty that I've embarrassed her because all her friends are going to be listening and tuning in. So anyway, I took her for laser hair removal, and then it's like $400 for like,
Yeah.
you know, and the lady was lovely and we had a nice conversation and blah, blah, blah. I
Oh,
stayed in the
no, there
room
was
because, of course,
not
she's
a tip.
tipped. Now, I don't
That's not,
know.
nope, nope.
So, well, then I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? Am I too cheap? I
Nope.
think I ended up like choosing my own tip option and tipping like $20, which is like 5% only, because I felt
That's not
guilty
right.
not leaving anything. And then the next time I felt guilty that I hadn't maybe left enough. So I was like, oh shit, I should probably leave 10% this time. But then I'm thinking like, oh my God, I just paid $400 for this thing that took 45 minutes. And yeah, it's awesome. Like, don't get me wrong. She's thrilled. But like,
Nope, that should not have a tip. The only things, if we could do away with tipping in general,
mhm. And I don't know if they have that option on there because they're also like kind of a medi spa and they do
but
like
then
facials and, but again,
what
I'm
they should
like, I'm
do,
paying
they should
$200 for
force
a
it.
facial. Is that not the service I'm getting? Like, why do I have to feel guilty now that,
You
oh,
shouldn't, but they should force it through. That onus is on them as a business to train the front staff to click it past the tip option. I've been places where they have that option available because they might sell something that's a tippable service,
yeah.
but they will take the thing and say, let me just bypass all of this. Like they do it for you
So
so
here's
that
the
you don't
problem.
have to feel guilty.
The reason I feel most guilty is the person who owns the salon and does the treatment is the one bringing you through.
Oh, that's very bad practice. You can leave all that guilt because owners, even of anything, kind of like the standing best practice used to be that they didn't accept tips even if
Right,
they performed the service.
right.
So no guilt.
Okay, well,
Wash
thank
your
you.
hands.
I will try next time I go, which is this afternoon. I will tip no on the tip. And now I'm going to feel guilty because one time I tipped a certain amount, the next, and I'm like, are you tracking me? Are you like going, and probably not. But this is all going through my mind that I'm like, now this lady's going to go back to the history and be like, this time she gave me this much. This time she gave me this much. Did I do a shittier job today? What's happening?
Okay, so what would happen if you said, as you go to pay for that service, you said something like, I just want to let you know that I'm not choosing the tip option because I sort of have a set of parameters around services that I tip for, and this doesn't fall into that category. Even as I say that, I feel like it's not
I
gonna.
could never. I could
Yeah.
never. Also, that springs to mind entitled people like a former friend of ours that we shall not talk about.
Well, we will, I'm sure.
Someday. We'll feel guilty on her behalf.
You know what's really sad is I just had to run through like 3 names and be like, "Oh, that one."
That, that makes us sound bad that we have lots of former friends.
No, because I
But
think life is about people have this like utopian idea. That's something actually we could spend time, right? And
yes,
intentionally think about friendship
yes.
because we have this utopian ideal of what friendship is for women and how it must look. and
Yeah.
it's absolutely ridiculous, and I think it just feeds guilt starting from when you're a child all the
Mm.
way through, I'm assuming till you die.
I would think unless you just stop giving all the shits. I don't know. And that is a discussion that I've actually had with a friend of mine who, yeah, feels very strongly about how friendship is reciprocated. Not me, I'm not the culprit, but with other friends.
Might tell more.
I'm the good friend. I'm the
You're the
one to
good
whom
friend. You're
everyone
the
else is.
reciprocator.
Yeah, everyone else has to now, make it to my standard. Um,
Okay, so what's your standard?
oh, nothing, just that I'm a good friend because I will
Well, I
always
know that, but
I will always respond. I can tell when she's like texting just as a like, "Hey, how are you?" or like, "Hey, like, can I actually
yeah.
talk to you?" And I will never say no, and maybe that's not healthy either, but I will always be like, "Yep, I'm available." But then we have some friends that are mutual, and then she has some friends that are not mutual, where like over the years, things happen in life. You kind of are going through the same stuff, and then you're not, with kids or whatever it is. Sometimes it's like a divorce situation, and
Mhm.
I can't relate to that, but I can at least support it. But I think some friends have been like, don't know how to support that and just disappear. Yeah. And I try not to feel guilty when a friendship kind of peters out because I'm like, you know what? You have people at different times of your life, and sometimes they come
Yeah.
and go, and there's
Were
ebbs and
you always
flows.
like that though, or did you have to move toward that?
I moved toward that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I
Did
had
you have
trouble letting go of friendships, and I have a thing where I would like feel guilty
yeah.
about someone like needing me and me not being available. So I would hang on to something longer probably than I should.
I was reading something and then talking to someone about the fact that, like you just mentioned divorce, right? Like if
Yeah,
you're dating someone, you can break up.
yeah.
If you're married, you can divorce. If your friendship fades or ends, there's no words. We have no language around
Mm,
how to handle that. And I think that that's part of it's just this infinite thing,
yeah.
right? And so then if there's no way to acknowledge that it's fading or changing or ending, to say those words, they're not constructed for
Mm,
it, right? Like,
mhm. That's really interesting, actually. Yeah. And then there's more guilt attached because it's like,
yeah,
at what
there's
point do you start calling someone a former friend
mhm,
rather than a friend, right? At
yeah,
what point are you like, hey, I haven't talked to you in 3 years and I don't have a clue what you're up to and unfollowed you on Facebook or whatever, right? Like,
yeah,
what's the line? What's the time
yeah,
frame? What's the
yeah.
Hmm,
So like language feeds it, and then all the romantic ideals of what friendship between women is supposed to look like,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
even the little kid books, the ones that are more of like a small novel, it's maybe starts out that you don't have a friend, but then you find the perfect friend and
yeah.
life is good. Or you have a friend and then she turns evil, but then another amazing, better friend replaces,
Yes.
right? Like it's these idealized versions. And so if your friendships don't look like that or how they are in the movies, that I felt so guilty about that because there's something wrong with me then.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I never thought about it that way. I have had a lot of guilt over the years to do with friendships. Yeah. Interesting.
Well, and did you like for me, right? When I've got groups of friends that I like, and you mentioned like situation changing, right? Someone moves or someone gets a job or right? Like the
Yep.
kinds of things that just happen.
Yep.
I would try to hang on, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, we have to maintain this connection because we had one.
Yeah.
And then as you age, there just become more of those connections and your life gets busier. And it was like the wheels start falling off the bus and the guilt around that, right? When that one friend would be like, hey, like, let's go for lunch. And it would be like, oh, like to say that doesn't actually work. It's not that I
No.
can't make lunch work, but it's that I can't make this relationship, I can't
Yeah.
devote the care and attention that it needs. And it has often nothing to do with I still like you.
Yeah.
And if circumstances were different,
But
but
you just
they
can't
aren't.
prioritize them in that moment. It's
Yes.
like,
But the guilt around that
yeah. Yeah.
is kind of
Huge.
suffocating. Suffocating.
Yeah. And then when you do try to fit someone in, you're like, okay, And then it's just like, okay, but now I can't do this with the kids, or
Mhm.
I can't spend that time with my husband, or I can't, whatever it
Or
is. And it's like,
nothing.
oh, yeah,
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, yeah, the friendship guilt is probably one of my biggest ones,
Hmm.
and then, of course, motherhood. That word is synonymous, I would think.
Yeah. Constant source of guilt.
Wifeage.
Yep.
Oh, we could call it marriage, I guess,
Yeah. Yeah.
but specific to the guilt of wives, I think.
I feel I don't
Daughter?
I don't
Daughter
know that
guilt?
my husband has as much guilt over
No,
things as I do. I feel like no. Maybe I'm wrong, but
I think you're probably right. Um, daughter guilt, like being a
yes.
daughter guilt.
Oh God. Yeah. So much of that these days with aging parents.
Yeah, I remember back in, I don't even know, let's say the mid to late 90s when I took a sociology of something. Oh my God. Oh, sandwich generation. Oh, you know
Oh,
what? It wasn't the sociology one, I think. First of all, it was Women's Studies 100, which was the first time it was ever taught at U of R. And there was a lot of people took the class who weren't, full-time students, like
yeah.
women from the community. So there
Yeah.
was a very wide range of ages. So there was like from me, who was probably 19, to women in their 70s, maybe even one in their 80s. I can't
That's
remember.
cool.
So the conversations were very wide ranging and varied. And I remember one of the women talking about the challenges of being caring for children and caring for elderly. And I was just, I had no time for that. I was like, this is not the place for that conversation.
We have so many bigger issues here
Yeah.
facing women. What are you even on about,
Talk to me
lady?
about your mother appointments.
Nobody gives a shit.
Yeah. And then we did take some class where it was more specific, and there were other women who were really wanting to talk about motherhood, right? And then the sandwich generation stuff. And I remember reading it and being like, yeah, this all makes sense, but I don't care.
Yeah. Doesn't affect me.
Yeah, I think I really didn't care. Like, this is on the bottom of the list of things to concern ourselves about. But it's like,
Till
it's
it's top of list.
it's crazy. And how
Hmm.
many women I know who are balancing those two things, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And often at the height of a career
Yeah.
is when everyone needs everything.
Yeah. And I feel like, especially these days, with so many women having a career before they have kids so that they can actually have a career, and then having kids later. And then suddenly you have really young kids with fairly
Old
old
parents. And you're in
parents.
menopause.
Yeah.
I tell my kids all the time, because I have 3 girls, right? And I tell them all the
Yes.
time, I'm like, "I don't have the answer for this." I think this is an awesome first little podcasty thing, because 'cause we're practicing and we're getting, like, a billion things that we can
Touch on.
dig into, hey?
Hmm.
But I say, "I do not have a solution for this problem." But no one talked to me about, do you wanna have a family? Do you wanna be married? Do you wanna have children? Right? Plus career. No one had those conversations, so I have those with them, and I mean, Charlie has said to me, not not just a one-off. She says, "You had me so old that I am not going to have you by the time I'm this age." And then she'll come back to me, and it's true, right?
Oh,
It's true.
but you
And
weren't even
she
that old, I don't think.
I was probably 37.
Yeah, I mean,
That is old. There's a reason I was labeled. I think they've changed the word now, but it used to be geriatric
it's
pregnancy. I think
geriatric
now it's called like
pregnancy.
late advanced maternal age or something.
Yeah, it's much
But
better.
like, it's true. My body, it was harder on my body. It was harder on my psychological self. Maybe I had more money in the bank than someone who was younger,
Hmm.
not literally, but like money coming in.
Yeah.
Right? But I was exhausted,
Yeah.
and I know you can like look for the silver lining, and that's really important, but I was exhausted because I was older. And now I think about that. Like, I will probably, unless Charlie has kids way earlier than I did, if she has kids, I won't really see them.
Yeah.
And if I do, I might not be active. I might be the
Yeah.
a weekly visit in the care home or something, like, that breaks my heart. I feel guilty about that, but I it's less guilt because I'm more annoyed. I'm
Right.
more annoyed that I was sold a bill of goods that if I just did it in the order of go to school, get a job, then get married, then have kids,
Yeah.
like, I believed it, right?
Mhm.
So I tell them I don't have answers because, the world is set up for that. The world is set up that apply for school, now go to school, now get a job, then maybe get married, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I just feel like you can't the order doesn't make any sense.
And I don't know if there's an order that does make sense either because I went to school, got a job I hated, got married and had kids instead. And then it was like, here I am at 47 and I feel guilty because I don't have a career that's fulfilling. I don't have any career. I don't know what I want my career to be. And yeah, but I was a smart student, a bright person. I had lots of options open to me. And now I feel guilty that I feel I've squandered them because I did things in the order, but I didn't find the thing that was the job or the career that I loved.
How old were you when you had your kids?
28 and 31.
The way I
And
like to think of it is you're in your absolute prime. So that the mental prime of right? The mental, like the intelligence and the determination and the maturity, it's squandered on youth.
true.
So better to use like all that physical capability and energy to raise kids. And now I think the reason maybe you feel like you don't have a career is because you're too smart. You're not going to just settle, right?
Yeah.
That's probably your biggest thing is you're kind of like a bit of an artist too, right? You would want to be fulfilled. And
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
because you could have some other job for sure. You could go out and
Definitely.
kill it, right? You'd be already
Definitely.
running whatever it was.
But then I feel guilty that that's not enough for me either, right? That like, oh, I can't just have some regular job. Like, why not? Why couldn't I?
Because I think the world needs place people like us, right? And I've tried having the regular job and you can only sustain it
Yeah.
for so long,
Yeah.
right? And then it's like, oh, and so the world needs like the thinkers and the creative people. So I'm older than you, Amy. So I've been able
Mm.
to let that guilt go. It certainly rears its head, right? When when the paychecks are infrequent.
Yeah.
So I sell my soul for a little bit and do something that pays some bills, but there's no career,
Yeah.
which is hard, right? When your friends are like getting the promotions now because they've put the work in, they're getting the promotions, they're getting like the esteem and the really amazing jobs.
Yeah.
And it's like, good job. I don't
And
know.
also, too, how many of our friends are like, oh, I can retire in like the
Oh, that,
next,
yeah.
5 years or whatever, because I started working at 22 at
Yep.
this government job. And like, to me, I feel guilty thinking this, but I'm like, that sounds awful. But also,
Well,
I'm jealous because I'm like, wouldn't that be nice if I had just sucked it up for this last 25
no, because you'd
years?
be a miserable shit. You'd
Oh,
be a miserable shit if you
I
sucked it up.
know.
And honestly, like those there's the golden handcuff jobs like
Yeah.
that, right? And that's what you're jealous of.
Yeah, totally.
It's the financial security, but the
Yeah.
trade-off, you could have done that.
Yeah. I
The
hated
trade
my government job. I mean, I did it for like 2.5 years and it was soul sucking. And I feel guilty that I couldn't stick it out, but I know that I would not have been a happy person.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got like work, friendship, motherhood, daughterhood,
Spousehood.
spousehood, right? We need subcategories of everything.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, what else do I feel guilty for? I feel guilty that I hate my dog. I'm just making like a really random list that I'm not like doing yoga, you know, 4 hours a day.
Maybe because I wear the moral judgy person hat too frequently in my life.
We assume everyone else does too.
Yes. And I
Yeah.
feel guilty that I am judgy.
Yeah. I wish I was just one of those people that just walked lightly.
Yeah. Just observing and never thinking
Yeah.
good or bad.
Yeah.
Mm,
That's stoicism, isn't it? I think.
maybe.
Yeah.
See, the judgy part of me would be like, that's just dumb people,
Well, kind of.
oblivious.
Yeah. I would rather know things and have less happiness than not know them.
Yeah, agree. But
Hey, make
sometimes
that
I think, wouldn't it
positive.
be nice though to just,
Yeah. Or if you could turn it on and off, right? Like
yeah,
on Saturdays,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
That would be a good day. I would pick Saturdays.
I like a Saturday. Yeah.
Okay, so I thought of this thing that I have felt guilty about
Okay.
for since I was, I think, 27.
Okay.
So we got married and planned like a big wedding, but there wasn't a lot of sort of because of my dad's religion, I was not well informed in just, the ways of the world in terms of like etiquette. And so I tried really hard, but there were huge pieces that I missed.
Yeah.
And one of them was we hired a photographer and went off to do like the photos in between the ceremony and the dinner
Yeah.
and didn't really think it through, right? Like didn't think of the aspect of like, okay, going to do this. I think it was the photographer who said, okay, let's go here, right? Didn't include my mom and dad and brothers.
Mm.
It was all sort of like, the wedding party, which
Ah,
mhm, was so important at the
yeah.
time, but that has eaten away at me.
Yeah. And did your parents or brothers ever express to you that it disappointed them?
My mom said something about because she had her own, she had only her father was still alive,
Mhm.
and my grandpa lived with my mom. She couldn't bear putting him somewhere. And so he lived at our house and she cared for him. He was pretty easy to deal with, but
Mm.
right, like still. And I remember she was disappointed that neither of her siblings offered to deal with my grandpa so she could go take the pictures, right? And I never
Oh,
said anything. That was probably what sort of flagged it initially that this
yeah,
hadn't happened.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I
that's
don't
awful.
really like, there's no fixing that. There's no solve. There's no go back. There's no anything. But it was such a big mistake. And I
Do
never know
you
what to do with guilt like that.
do you have other photos of you with them on the day?
One,
Oh,
literally one.
mm,
And I feel like it's really indicative of a few things, right? One of which is my moral failing. Um, but one of which that I didn't love being around my dad,
mhm.
right?
Yeah,
At the same time, that now I'm like, well, he was still your dad, right? And he did things not well, but because he loved you and he did
yeah,
do a lot of things for me, including funding that wedding, right?
yeah. Oh, so then the guilt is
So
huge. Yeah,
yeah. And it's an unsolvable, unfixable, right? And so I'd be curious. We need people sometime we need to interview someone who like how do you kind of set that down?
can assuage our
What do you
guilt
do
for
with it?
us.
What's that?
We need people to assuage our guilt for us.
Or like how do you? Or is that
Yeah,
just part of who you
yeah.
are now, right?
How do
Like
you process
that's
it,
just there.
deal with it, and let it go?
Yeah. Or is
Like,
there things you just don't get to let go? Right? Is that part of life and maybe just accepting that, yeah, like sometimes you're just a really shitty person.
I don't even think it's shitty person. That's too much to put on yourself. I think it's just like you just got caught up in the moment and the time and you didn't have a lot of experience with weddings and all these things. So how are you to know what was meant to be done to document the day? And I mean, this is a time 20 years ago where we didn't have cell phones with cameras on
right?
them.
Yeah,
So, in today's world, this wouldn't be an issue
I know.
because,
And
right?
maybe
It's
that's
like somebody would have taken 5,000 photos that you were like, oh my God.
yeah.
But at the time, that wasn't a thing.
I
So
wonder if
that's
I
not
could
on you.
AI some pictures,
I mean, you
right?
100% could. I've heard of people AIing wedding pictures.
Hmm,
Um, what about with Jade's family? Do you have pictures with them?
same thing.
Same thing. And do you
Yeah.
feel guilty about that?
No, that's
Does
his.
Jade feel guilty about that?
He's probably never thought of it. I
100%.
don't think we've
So then
discussed.
why are you carrying your burden, right? Like, I guess you just have to forgive yourself that with the tools and the knowledge that you had at the time, you did the best that you could. And it wasn't something that was on your radar to think about. And also, why should you now ruin the enjoyment of your day and have that cloud it, right?
That's so funny because I don't even like thinking about my wedding because
Yeah.
I just think of the things that went wrong, right? That
Yeah.
I screwed up.
Yeah.
Hmm. We
I
don't
feel
need
like
guests. You just fixed it all.
you can let it go. You probably, in this day and age, the young people get like wedding planners and decorators
Yeah,
and all the things, and Pinterest tells them exactly what they need to do and
yeah.
who's going to tell them when to do it. And we just wung it. Like we just did, yeah. And so I
Well,
think it's okay. And if you really feel like, oh, I'd like to see what that picture would look like,
yeah,
then
there's
get
an app for
AI.
that.
Yeah, yeah. Get somebody to Photoshop that for you and be like, oh, this is what it would have looked like.
I like it. I
Yeah,
feel lighter.
I'm glad. I did have a guilt. So we had one wedding photo mishap at our wedding because um, it was to do with my grandma. I had only
Mm,
one remaining grandparent when I got married. And my grandma, usually my parents took care of her. She lived in town. But of course, on our wedding day, my aunt and uncle were visiting from out of province. They were visiting from BC. So they drove grandma. It was great. They were very kind to take grandma around all day. The problem was, as soon as the ceremony was finished, we planned to go and take photos nearby. We did them at the university, actually. And so we had all of our siblings and parents, and Jason had his aunt and uncle because they were essentially grandparents to him. They were a
yeah.
little bit older than his mom and dad, and he had no other family. So in Canada. So that was essentially, so we had them. And then when I went to find my grandma, my aunt and uncle had already whisked away with her somewhere. And of course, pre cell phones, all that stuff. We had
Right?
no
That
way
was
to
just
get a
it.
hold of them. I didn't know where they took her. Did they go out for lunch? Like, I have no idea. So that was something I did feel guilty about. But then in that scenario, I let it go because I was like, well, I wish I had that photo with her, but I also, it wasn't on me. Like I
Yeah,
tried.
yeah. And your intention,
Yeah.
right? Like the
Yeah.
intention matters, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I know at the time there was some guilt placed on me. It
externally.
Yeah, and it's always my mom is a massive guilt tripper. We can talk about that someday, parents.
Yeah.
Um, she doesn't mean to be. It's
Mhm.
just inherent in her nature. I don't know. I don't even think that her mom, like, I don't even think my grandma was. When I think about it now, I'm like, my grandma wasn't like that. Like,
Right.
where did you come
Where
to
did it come
this?
from?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But anyway, I know that there was some disappointment expressed after the
yeah,
fact that grandma wasn't included in the photos and blah, blah,
yeah.
blah. And I was like, it's not for lack of want or
Right.
trying. She was just gone. I
Yeah.
couldn't do anything about it. Yeah. Families, though, man, that's
We have like 15 subsets.
uh-huh. Deep, deep source of guilt. Yeah.
We need a section on book club
Oh my God. Book club
and how
guilt.
guilt in yes.
100%. Yeah. Write that down.
Yeah, because
Type
that's a good
that
one.
up.
That's a good one. Well, Amy,
Yes, Kristen.
I feel If we started this conversation and my guilt was running at about a 8.2 out of 10, I think it's come down a little bit. So I'd give it maybe a solid 6.
Excellent. I like that. Um, Today I'm feeling more guilty after because
Oh
of
dear.
all the things I feel that I should have prepared that I didn't.
Oh, well, maybe mine should go up.
No, you shouldn't. I want it to go down. I'm happy that it did. I'm working on this for myself now. I'm like, don't feel guilty about it. You showed up. So
I
that's a
still
win,
haven't.
right?
I feel guilty more about the plant that I moved before we started recording that died. That was like for Mother's Day.
Oh God.
And I
Mother's
kept
Day
watering
gifts.
it
There's
for
a
the
whole
last couple
episode
weeks.
right there. Mother's Day
Yeah,
handmade gifts.
days. We should abolish all days because I don't think they're adding to the
Hate days.
conversation. Yeah. Okay, days. I'll write it down.
Yeah. Because literally this week, supposedly, according to social media, it was both sons and
Oh,
daughters'
oh,
day.
see, I think that is such a load of shit,
Made
and
up
that annoys
bullshit,
the
and I don't
shit
acknowledge
out of
it.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that acknowledges the shit out of me, and I don't like
I
people's
refuse
posts.
to feel guilty about that because I'm like,
Yeah,
fuck you. I'm not posting my kid. I love my kid. I don't need to be like, this
I
is
don't
my
need to do
beautiful
that.
child.
Every fucking day is their day.
Yeah.
And I don't like back to school days where people have a little wooden board and
Oh,
it's like, do you know what you're setting yourself up for? Okay, well, it's been a slice.
yes. Thank you for encouraging me to do this.
Thank you for doing this. This
And
is
I don't like to hear the sound of my own voice. So,
no, you'll get more used to it. I don't
mhm.
like mine either. And last night at the grocery store, someone said to me, I love your writing. I love your cultivated. I love it. And I listen to all of them and I love it so much. But here's some feedback.
Oh God, I
Yeah.
don't want
So
feedback.
then they gave me the feedback and then they said, and your voice, it sounds so good. Do you do something? Because you sound so different from how you sounded.
I'll just speak into a microphone. Did you want me to
I
filter
said,
it through a
well, I
microphone?
do make a point of trying to speak clearly, which when you see me, I don't. But it was so funny because they said it twice. Like they went back to it at the
It
end
was
and
really
said,
a
yeah,
sticking
a
point for
big
them.
sticking point that I sound so much better than I do in real life.
Great.
Thanks. And that person is not feeling guilty for saying that,
They don't.
right? Whereas I might say something and I feel guilty for like 1,000
Oh,
years.
even if it was a positive thing, you'd be like, "Oh god, did they take it the right way?
Yes.
Did
So
I
I need to send
clearly
them that.
state that this was a positive thing and that I wanted them to feel good about it? Did they feel good enough?" Shit. Hmm.
Never ending.
Never ending. Well, I guess we're still guilty women today.
Yeah, I think we are. That's all
Oh
right. It
well.
gives us something to do.
That's right. Well, thanks
Okay,
for
I'm gonna
chatting with me.
thanks for chatting with me.